And thank you very much once again to our panelists and to Rick Rule for the panel discussion. Now we'll move on to our discussion with Riverside Resources, Jean-Marc Stouty. He is the founder and CEO of Riverside Resources and is joining us today from below the US border. Jean-Marc has over 25 years of diverse mining and exploration experience in precious and base metals with a strong focus in Canada, Mexico, as well as the US. He's held positions with major international mining companies, including Kennecott, BHP Billiton, and Teck Cominco. Jean-Marc Stouty and Rick Rule have a long and fruitful history. So, Rick, the stage is now yours.
Thank you, Remy. Jean-Marc, disclosure of conflict. I am a Riverside shareholder. As you point out, I was a Riverside shareholder before it became public. We've known each other for a very long time, going back, if my memory serves me correctly, to your tenure at BHP. What I'd like you to do to begin with is talk to our audience about, in movie parlance, the apprenticeship of Jean-Marc Stouty. Where did you come from? What did you do? Establish the credibility for our audience so that they care about your answers to my questions.
Well, I started off in Riverside, California, and I named the company Riverside. That's where I grew up from, and I did an undergraduate. I did geology and was lucky enough to win an award to go work with the U.S. Geological Survey. That was back the last century. That was back in 1987, and I worked as a translator here in Mexico, where I am right now. And I was working in the same hotel 37 years ago as a translator. The hotel's been redone, of course, but translating about geology. I then did a master's degree in mineral economics at Harvard University, and that was really about economics and geology, and then did a PhD. In between, worked with Kennecott Exploration, where we were lucky enough to find a deposit that's now called Alamos Gold. That Alamos Gold, the Mulatos deposit, I realized that was going to be something that was pretty significant when we drilled the first holes there. And I told my professor at the University of Arizona I was going to do a PhD. And he says, that's not going to amount to anything. What are you doing? I said, no, this will be a mine. And I chose to go forward and write the economic study of the discovery of that. That was a really good discovery. We developed that project. Then I worked in BHP. And BHP, we had a number of discoveries, one of them in Mongolia, the Oyu Tolgoi deposit that Robert Friedland really built into something large, as well as a giant porphyry copper deposit in Arizona, the Resolution deposit that I was able to be involved in. I worked for a couple of years in business development, tech resources, and then I founded Riverside 17 years ago. I've invested in every financing and bought in the market, and never in 17 years have I sold a share. I've exercised any warrants and kept any warrants and exercised warrants and also options and kept the shares. So it's great to be here. And yeah, this is kind of my life. Riverside is what I do and I love doing. And it's the only thing that I'm a director of management of is Riverside and the children of Riverside, the companies we've spun out of Riverside. So thanks a lot for the question.
Jean-Marc, I hadn't known you were involved in Mulatos. I've been there a couple times. I'm delighted, given the socioeconomic challenges that you managed to come out of there alive. I'm delighted. I want to talk about Riverside as a value proposition to begin with. I want to compare the value of each component with the price that's being charged for the company itself. So tell me, first of all, how much cash and securities you have in there relative to your market capitalization. Tell me how much money you have had spent on your projects historically relative to how much G&A, net G&A, it's caused you to generate the capital spent, please.
Super. So, and Rick knows this woman, Laura, who's my wife, who went to Mulatos with me in this rather challenging location when she was my girlfriend. And we've been married 33 years. And she went out there, and on the day we were there, someone was actually, unfortunately, even shot that night when she was there. Often it was a really tough environment. And one of the things I'm really proud of that's driven me to do Riverside was that we now have paved roads, lights, electricity, and an order of law in a place that was lawless. And I think that's the thing that Riverside's about, is creating value in communities and places that make a better future for everyone. And that's why it makes me get up. And so when we have a capital structure with a market cap of $11 million with $6 million just cash, about 1.5 million of additional equity that we just kind of say it's illiquid. So we have a very low enterprise value of only around $5 million enterprise value. We have 75 million shares out, have been going for 17 years. We have no warrants. We haven't had to do any substantial financing since 2019, and we use the existing cash flow out of our royalties and other part of the business to sustain the business. And we spun out of Riverside 7 different companies. One time of those, the Capitan Silver, we dividended to shareholders and are working on that again. Hope I answered the different questions, and I also appreciate very much the challenge of keeping a marriage going for 33 years when you start off on some pretty rocky adventures and your wife decides no longer to be a geologist. She went into government, now she's a social worker. I think I'm her biggest project.
No comment. You are maybe unique among the exhibitors that we have today in that, in a sense, you're a hybrid prospect generator and a merchant bank, which is to say there are some projects that you choose to farm out almost internally. You finance them off balance sheets because you create the balance sheets that you finance them. So if you could talk to me about the merchant banking component of prospect generation, I think that would be of interest to our audience, how you add value in a non-traditional fashion.
Location is so important. So one of the things is that Vancouver is a great place to create paper. They create tons and tons of paper. So as a merchant bank, if we can bring quality projects and we can bring them together into the marketplace where we can actually meet with potential new corporations that are forming or with management teams, we can get deals done. One of the questions Rick asked that was about how much money we'd had overall spent. We've had overall spent over $84 million spent, yet Riverside has only raised $28 million ourselves. So about 1/4 of all the money spent. And then the merchant bank has helped to get that other, at least half of that has been through other deals that we've been able to do by location. Secondly is by expertise. Myself, having worked in porphyry copper and large gold, including the high sulfidation mulattoes style of gold systems, and in the other types of top gold systems, are what people want to find. So we can merchant bank bring the type of projects that are financeable, that have the chance to be very large. And we have the expertise to put together the data packs and to put together the pitch packs. And then we actually have the back office to support the corporations as well. So we try to really help to operate. We just don't want to be the source of capital. We want to make sure our shareholders get full leverage from all those other people bringing capital, and we make money off it. In fact, we're giving away silver coins. Here's some of the coins right here we're giving away. We give away silver coins. They're value, but we see value in ownership and values in people that own the shares in Riverside. And we really see that if we own the business and own the projects as a merchant bank, we can therefore do the deal. And when the project comes back, it's forwarded further along. And we generate royalties this way, not by buying them, but by creating them. And therefore, there's no underlying ownership or anything else has to be paid. So our zero cost basis means all upside for shareholders.
Jean-Marc, in addition to creating joint venture partners, you've done a wonderful job over time attracting joint venture partners. Tell me something about the partners who have funded you up to date, attracted by your intellectual capital, and tell me something about who your current joint venture partners are.
You know, when I worked in the major companies, I worked at BHP and these companies and had great relationships with people working in there. So currently, well, in the past, we've had Kinross Gold as a good partner. And we've had good work with Cleveland Cliffs and Cliffs Natural Resources. It was wonderful to work with Antofagasta, great to work with BHP, excellent with Centerra and many other partners along the way. And the thing that was about relationship and about delivering to them quality. And it was true to course that within 4 or 5 years, they themselves would have a reorganization. It was rarely that the projects failed. It was more that the corporate structure allowed for another reorganization. And it fit with my life. I moved to live in a different country or continent every 3 years. Eventually, I moved to Canada from Chile, where my daughter was born. And when I moved to Canada, I told the realtor, call me in 3 years. 3 years later, the realtor called me, and sure enough, I was being asked to move to Moscow, Russia, when this new guy, Putin, was coming into power, and me having an American passport didn't seem like a good place to move, to Moscow, Russia. And that's true. I said, I got to build a business model that leverages off of this. The major companies keep reorganizing. So right now we're with new partners. It's great to be working with Fortuna Silver, and we're just launched a new program here in Mexico, and I'm sure we're in it. It's going great. They've already doubled the budget from what they said they were going to do, and it's excellent. We also are working with a lot of junior companies, and we've been moving our jurisdiction from not only Mexico, and this is why it's good for Rick, because it's hard to keep up a little bit, as Riverside has added in diversification from Mexico, as we were known as Mexico. But we've moved into Canada very strongly, and the United States, and getting partners there. So that's kind of through this generation of our spin-outs allow us, because you can get capital to fund, and they can use flow-through capital, which is not on our budget. It's not on our balance sheet, but we can actually use that money, get the fees, and forward the projects. And so as a shareholder in Riverside, you're getting access to flow-through capital from Canada, but you don't have the dilution in your structure. Really important part of the business.
For the benefit of our attendees who aren't Canadians, a flow-through share is a piece of equity issued by a company exploring in Canada, where the tax credit associated with the exploration, in some cases including a step-up, flows through to the shareholder. Given that most exploration companies don't have to worry about tax, at least for a while, the exploration company is giving up the tax credit, which is of no benefit to them, in return for a lower cost of capital. Sorry, Jean-Marc, I just needed to do an editorial for those people who haven't wasted their entire lives in mining. What I want to do now is what I tried to do in the workshop with you, which is to say, take off your Jean-Marc Staude CEO hat and put on your Jean-Marc Staude exploration hat. What is the question that you think about at the end of a conference? I like the silver coins better. What is the question that you really wish that people would ask you that they don't ask you? You know your business really well, and you know what I forget to ask you, and you know what isn't asked in the workshop. What is that question, and what is the answer?
How do you really, Jean-Marc, see the value? And this is kind of, as the geologist, the intrinsic value. It's something that I can't easily put in writing or something. And so this is a forward-looking statement. But if you do the math is just crazy. If you start off with a company that you have 11 million market cap and you have 6 million cash, you only have an enterprise value of 5 million. So then you say, wow, you have the Ontario portfolio. The Ontario portfolio alone is worth overall, the market would be closer to 8 million. We've had past history. Just that. You look at British Columbia. That's got a market valuation of 5 million. We have enterprise values with rare earth elements. We have the gold projects. We have other things in British Columbia. You go to the royalties. We have royalties on 8 different projects, big upscale. Just to buy down some of those royalties would be more than our enterprise value. And then you go to Mexico and we have giant porphyry copper projects. And you look at that and you say, wow, you have good projects in that and this. That's 4 or 5 different times our enterprise value. And then you say, you didn't even manage the talk right now what's going on with Fortuna Silver. They're drilling the Cecilia project. That's a gold project. That's 6 times our enterprise value. I think that's the one thing. And I really find shareholders, it's hard to appreciate the intrinsic value. You have so much upside. And without Riverside financing, putting on my exploration hat, I'm so excited by the exploration potential that I'm spending my weeks down in the field. I really appreciate that question.
Well, Jean-Marc, on behalf of shareholders, thank you for your ongoing efforts on our behalf. Thank you, too, for your ongoing partnership with regard to the boot camps and the symposium. I'm delighted to be your shareholder, and I'm thankful that you have been a sponsor. Thank you for being with us. I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations, and I hope it's worth your while.
I hope that people will come to our booth. It's really great. We've been having some wonderful discussions. And Rick, your coming to the booth was really great too. And with there, we can talk about any questions people have or come to our website. Glad to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you. Remy, back to you.